Salami slicing tactics. In the case of China, salami slicing is a series of many small actions, often performed by clandestine means, where the accumulated whole produces a much larger result that would be unlawful to perform all at once. China also uses this tactics in spying by getting many people to get small bits of information which by itself may not be illegal, but the accumulated information would be unlawful to perform all at once. China has learned that it can gain and occupy territory by claiming it by war or by direct incursions. China shares its border with 14 countries, but has major territorial disputes with 17 countries. China is the only country which has disputes with all its neighbors. China wants to become a dominating global superpower. China has plans to bind Europe with contracts of road, rail and sea with China. China wants to entice Europe with benefits of 60% of world trade, then launch a bio-attack on US and invade and colonize America. This plan has been spoken in very chilling detail by China's Defense Minister Shi Hoshan. It is not very uncommon for China to make historical claims to large parts of countries which would have been lost hundreds of years ago, yet China has the audacity to claim that it is its own today. China claims that when these countries were powerful, they took Chinese land, and now when China is powerful, they want it back. This is a very illogical way of thinking. China even thinks that America was discovered by a Chinese and so America belongs to China. China has a long history in taking land. China was just one-third of its current size before it started its incursions into neighboring countries. First, the CCP kicked out the nationalists, which are the Republic of China, and captured parts of southern China. This gave them 25% land of current China. What is remaining of the Republic of China is Taiwan. In 1945, after the World War II, China got Japanese colony of Manchuria. In the late summer of 1949, the People's Liberation Army drove into the Hexi corridor of Gansu province and pressed towards the Muslim-majority East Turkestan and made it Xinjiang. This added 15% more land to CCP China. Uyghurs of Xinjiang are still fighting to separate from China after so many years. In 1960, China gobbled up a big country called Tibet, and the king of Tibet, the Dalai Lama, had to flee to India to save himself and runs an ornamental exile government from Dharamshala in Himachal Pradesh in India. All this capture of land illegally is termed by China as incorporating of territories into China. In 1962, China literally walked into Aksai Chin of Jammu and Kashmir state in India. And in 1999, China hit a jackpot when it got Portuguese colony of Macau, which is known as the gambling capital of the world, and the British colony Hong Kong, which is the financial capital of Asia. Both were already well developed. Hong Kong doesn't accept the Chinese version of communist governance, and pro-democracy protest has happened frequently. China has also been busy capturing islands in the sea. In 1974, Parasail Islands in Vietnam. 1988, Johnson Reef in Vietnam. 1994, Mischief Reef, Philippines. 2012, Scarborough Shoal, which is just 220 kilometers away from Philippines. China has major border disputes with countries like North Korea, South Korea, Russia, Taiwan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Mongolia, Vietnam, Bhutan, and India. China also has major maritime disputes with Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia, Japan, Singapore, and Brunei. China bullies all its South China Sea neighbors with 9 dash lines, sometimes 10 dash lines, and sometimes 11 dash lines. Whenever it wants more territorial waters, it modifies a dash on the map and claims a few hundred nautical miles around it. China is now building artificial islands and claiming large areas around it as exclusive zones. When Vietnam protested at Johnson Reef, China shot and sunk their transport ships HQ-604, HQ-605, and HQ-505 and killed around 100 Vietnamese soldiers. China always tries to find some page in history to make a claim. China usually makes a claim for a bigger area than what it needs and reduces the claimed area to what it actually wants. This is to show that China made a big compromise. Then China repeats this with other neighbors. China's policy has always been what is mine is mine. What you have is up for negotiation. China extends its maritime boundary by first converting reefs into artificial islands. Then it creates a military base on the island by installing radar systems, anti-aircraft guns, and missile defense system. China does all this to control exploration of oil in that region. China, the modern day adventurer. China has regularly invaded different countries since 1945. In 1950, it invaded South Korea. In 1969, it invaded Manchuria in Russia. In 1967, China invaded Nathula and Chola in Sikkim, which had not by then fully merged with India. Sikkim became a full Indian state only in 1975. In 1979, it invaded into Vietnam. In 1987, it made incursions into Samdorang Chu in Tawang, Arunachal Pradesh in India. In 2013, it occupied Rakhinala, Ladakh in India. In 2015, it invaded Inner Mongolia or South Mongolia. In 2020, China made invasions into Galwan Valley in India. In 2020, it laid claims to Sakteng Wildlife Sanctuary in Bhutan. In 2020, Chinese website even claimed that Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan were part of China. Such activities have given the Chinese the name of the modern day adventurer. And in spite of all of this, China showcases itself as a peaceful country, which is not true at all. Let's check out China's modus operandi. On land, for example, in Aksai Chin, first China built a road G219 through a corner of Aksai Chin. Then China claimed that the road itself proved that China was the owner of Aksai Chin. Then China began to claim more and more land. Finally, in 1962, they waged an offensive to get more land from India. In sea, China claims islands by first putting down buoys, then builds concrete markers around it. Then China builds temporary wooden or bamboo shelters, and then permanent structures went up. Then China filled it with infrastructure and military. Then they claimed the area to be part of China. Beware of the Chinese army on the internet. China has been creating content on sites like YouTube and Quora in support of Chinese conquest of territories and to show China as a peaceful country. Both of these statements are opposing statements. If one is true, the other cannot be true. But these are being used by these Chinese bots. Any content that shows China as a peaceful country is an example of the Chinese bots. China also funds events and activities that promotes its cause. Best example of this is engineering the fall of Donald Trump using Corona as a bioweapon. China has also been blamed for funding protests like Black Lives Matter. Whenever you come across any article that shows support of China or make fun of China's enemy, you can be sure that it's a project of the Chinese Communist Party. So next time you see a meme on Donald Trump, you can be sure that it was made by the Chinese Communist Party. Donald Trump or somebody who is not in favor of China. China doesn't heed international laws. During more than one territory dispute, China has been ruled at fault by the United Nations and instructed China to move out of the occupied territories. But China has refused to adhere to the ruling of the United Nations. China expects the world to obey China's rules and historical fairy tales of its territory, but doesn't want to listen to international laws. United Nations has been totally ineffective against China. After the COVID-19 pandemic, it has come to light that China seems to be arm twisting WHO to adhere to Chinese decisions. Way back in 1969, Soviet Union had termed China as the modern day adventurer. China was about to be nuked by both US and Russia at different points in time, but both the time, one of them would back out only to annoy the other. The rise of China from 1990 to 2020 was unbelievable, but at the cost of USA. The rise of China from 1990 to 2020 happened only with the help of USA, and China repaid them by taking away American industries, American investments, American technology, and American jobs to China. It was during this 30-year period that the US economy suffered the most. This trend was reversed to a small extent by Donald Trump, but after Trump's exit, China will be back to its old business of getting American businesses closed. China could choke the world with its OBOR project. OBOR is a One Belt, One Road project, or One Rail or One Road project. China's Belt and Road project is not just a Belt and Road project, but in truth it is much bigger than it seems. OBOR is a rail, road and sea project combined into one. The speed of transporting goods will increase by at least 3 times. Alibaba CEO Jack Ma had hinted about this increased transportation speed without mentioning OBOR. The speed is truly mind-boggling and is difficult to match in any country locally. There is no chance of anything will be manufactured or grown locally in other countries. When it comes to speed, it is without doubt that train transportation is faster than road and road transportation is faster than ocean transportation. China has decided to reduce the slowest transportation, which is the shipping transportation, to just a few certain areas. After OBOR projects, Chinese ships will never have to cross the Indian Ocean. They will ship to the nearest port and from there it will be transported by rail or road. China will connect the western port of Europe with the eastern port of China by high-speed rail or road line by land across the two continents. This land bridge of OBOR will mean a great shift from the ocean transport towards rail and long-haul trucks. China will no longer have to cross the Indian Ocean or the Arabian Sea to reach Europe. The ship will drop cargo at Shanghai and from there it will move via high-speed rail to Europe, and from there it can be transported by ship to the US. The time taken would be a couple of weeks instead of couple of months. This is truly incredible, and China will have immense power with this OBOR project, and China could choke the world with its OBOR project. The OBOR project will change transportation completely. To put in perspective, it will be like shifting from dial-up internet connection speed to 4G internet connection overnight. It will completely change how the world trades. It will help Chinese industries to sell products much faster in Europe. It will ensure that the American and Europe local markets will collapse. The OBR roads will allow Chinese army to patrol, thus all the countries will be giving up that area to Chinese control. This was how East India Company set up its business in India and captured land under the guise of trade. Economically strong countries like European countries will be attracted because it will increase their market's reach. But within a short span, they will realize that China's trade will increase by 10 times. Actually, Chinese trade is not trade, but it is plain and simple dumping. This is done with the intention to destroy the local market in other countries. Economically weaker Asian and African countries will be attracted thinking that they will get free roads and infrastructure and a lot of bribes from China, and they just have to sign on deal agreements. So the only winner in this project is China, yet the cost in each country will be to be borne by those countries. China will have so much power that it could ban US or India from trading on OBOR routes. US by 2050 will not be in a position to retaliate. The countries signing OBOR projects have threat of losing land due to loans which cannot be repaid by poor countries, occupying the road by Chinese OBOR army camps, sudden incursions by China, destruction of local industry by dumping of Chinese products. China wants visa-free travel for Chinese without any restrictions, but it is not reciprocated by China. China uses the excuse of building infrastructure to create a muscular position in that country. China pursues the policy of expansionist nationalism. China poses a grave threat to the small independent countries neighboring it and a serious challenge to democratic values of freedom, equality, free enterprise and human dignity. After every territory discussion with India, China wants its army to get ready for regional war. So the only way to get back territory from China is through war. This has been going on since 2014. So the only way to get back territory with China is through war. War will be catastrophic for China. China will have to face the likes of USA, USSR, UK, Canada, Australia, India and Europe together. Even if there is only just US and India, they will rain missiles on China. All of China's massive constructions, its ports, its flyovers, its buildings, its high-speed train networks, its cement plants, everything will be erased from history. China will be sent 80 years back in time, to the time of Mao Zedong. On the other hand, India has no such assets other than old monuments. India's assets is old monuments. After the defeat, China will be split into multiple smaller countries. USA will get huge trade and technology benefits from China. India will get the freedom of Tibet. Russia will get Manchuria. Kazakhstan will get Xinjiang. Mongolia will get South Mongolia, or what is called as Inner Mongolia. Vietnam, Philippines, Taiwan, Malaysia, Indonesia, Hong Kong and Japan will share not only South China Sea but also South China. In the meanwhile, China's huge trade with India will also suffer. China exports to India about $75 billion worth of goods, while India exports to China just $16 billion worth of goods. So India can successfully ban Chinese products, but banning Indian products will have very little effect on India. The trade deficit of India is too high and China will suffer a lot, unlike the trade deal with America, where the trade of both countries are almost equal. In a war with India, China will have no victories. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon in another video.